Right, but I want to be hot, and these tortillas tell me I'll be hot if I eat them, so I'm going to eat them.
But still,
or what was the example used? Oh, the shop now and save 30%. I'm going to like buy the thing because I'm saving $100 by buying this thing. So I'm going to buy it because I want it.
yeah, so you buy it and you spend all your money. And
No,
then
but I'm saving $100 because they said so.
Yeah, you've saved all your money to the point where your bank account is empty. And actually,
Yeah,
now
and then I'm like, what the fuck? How did my bank account be empty? I was saving so much money.
you've saved.
And what the fuck? How am I fat? I was eating 0 carbs.
Warning, this podcast is for entertainment only and not intended for medical purposes.
Everyone kind of wants an easy life. They want what they want. They want it to be easy. And marketing, labeling, advertising people just try to like put 7 minus 7 equals 0 net carbs. And they're hoping that part of each of our psyches just sees that. And it's like, oh, good, I can eat tortillas and 0 carbs. I'm so healthy. And we can kind of just stay in the life is easy. I have what I have. And like you're saying, that probably happens in all walks of life. It's like, oh, I drive this car and it's good for the environment. And I, whatever. If I just like do this electronic device, I don't have to work out or whatever. And they just like, we just want to like,
But it's like somewhere someone knows that this isn't accurate.
Yeah, for sure the labeling people know. Although, I don't know, dude, humans' capacity to self-deceive and to believe whatever the thing is we want to believe is pretty fucking astounding.
Wait, so are you saying that the people who eat those tortilla chips actually think that they are consuming a 0 carb thing?
For some of them, for sure do. And probably the ones that buy it and then buy it again and buy it again, probably a high percentage of them. Because people like you that see through the bullshit right away probably stop continuing to buy them.
Okay, so if that's possible, there are people who, they look at that and that math adds up to them, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah, why was that funny? Why, dude? Why is that funny?
Well, it's like there's different regions in our brain, and there's the critical thinking region that looks at that math and is like, this is fucking ridiculous. But that region of the brain can kind of slip off into the shadows, and a different region of the brain that's like, oh yeah, I'm doing the right thing, I'm eating low carb, I'm gonna be hot. That wishful brainwashing capacity can sort of step to the front of the brain and sort of take over.
Wait, are you saying that people who are of average and or above average intelligence could be susceptible to this?
Definitely. I think people who are of high intelligence could totally be susceptible of this.
To brainwashing to the point where 7 minus 7, when there's not even a minus involved, actually equals 0?
Yes,
it's actually 7 plus 7?
Yes, because a person with high intelligence, the part of their brain that wants to believe that thinks, oh, if you have certain types of fiber require energy for your body to process, and so the attempt for your body to process the fiber burns the other carbs, and so it's a net 0. And it's a fairly good little kind of brainwashing story for that company to use.
It's a little story for the chip eater.
Yeah.
And so that chip eater, then would this possibly also explain how that chip eater then has 0 savings because they follow the prescription of spend money to save, shop now to save? Exactly.
Thank you that's a perfect example.
Right? And so Who does that? Who does this? Like, and that's what I wonder. Is this like a world where we are all like gravitating towards an expressed IQ less than fucking 83? Or is this what you're saying, that there's kind of like a partitioned self that's like highly analytical and able to to take a look at what's happening in the Gaza Strip and have some kind of a reasonable assessment. But then as soon as it looks at a tortilla chip, it's like, now that's a net
Totally,
zero.
dude. That's for sure the case. And when that really hit home to me in the most disturbing way was during COVID, where people who were extremely intelligent and very reflective suddenly were like completely lost their ability to think critically. I'm talking about people I know, where it was like these people who were really intelligent, and then I watched how they responded to COVID, and it's like they became completely retarded.
Well, I have COVID right now.
Oh.
Yeah, Happy New Year, COVID. And
Jesus.
I've had it for like a week, right? So I'm finally out. I'm like up and mobilized. Kind of, I had enough energy to work out this morning, so I'm clearly through the window. But I did recall, actually, just when I was in the restroom like half an hour ago, I was like, remember when 2 years ago, if you got COVID, you were just like a criminal and you had to like hide. You had to hide your infected status, and then 14 days of quarantine. And if anyone even saw you, they also had to get quarantined in their eyes. Like the molecules would go through their retina, and the amount of nonsense that was.
Dude, the amount of nonsense was unfucking believable.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's a really, really good example of where the collective brainwashing that went on, and it was intentional, right? Like now it's become more and more exposed that there was an attempt by the CDC and Fauci and whoever else these people were that promoted this type of a multiple distortions in people's logic and perception of how a virus works and how someone should behave if they have this virus or not, right? But so then if we see that's how it worked, and we've moved somewhat away from COVID as the predominant story, and so now we're on to net carb, zero chips, and on to like Netflix, where like you already bought the subscription, and now there's a whole section called like free with ads. I'm like, what do you mean free with ads? I fucking paid the subscription. What's the ad doing here? Right?
And what's free because I fucking paid.
Yeah, dude, it's the most asinine shit. And it's like how many of these are you hit with per day? That would be a really awesome study to see. Like how many of these do you have to deflect and or navigate per day? And then what is its overall impact? Because
I'm sure I'm being hoodwinked by tons of them.
You don't seem like a guy who is very susceptible to this with your whole...
No, I think I'm not, and I don't think I was hoodwinked by hardly anything in COVID, and I'm really good at saving, and I'm really good at like getting my body fat really low, so I don't think I am, but like you say, there's so many that I'm sure some slip by my fucking security system and fuck me up, you know?
Yeah. And like, I wonder how many is like a reasonable amount, because you can't just go on this like crusade to stop all misinformation. Mm-hmm. Like, that just seems like a real waste of your consciousness. It's just be in this like direct opposition to all things wrong. And it's like, well, at some point you're going to be the thing that's super off.
Yeah, well, and maybe all of our human race brethren are all getting hoodwinked by this shit. Maybe you just got to kind of join them to some degree. You don't want to be the weirdo who fucking like just eats moss and lives in the woods, you know?
I don't really know. Do you? Like, is that the thing? Like,
I don't know, dude.
Can you live in this world and then have enough of this stuff go on around you and not feel sick and disturbed and anxious and depressed? Like, I just really am starting to see that the markers that most of us use to create a healthy psychology are really no longer easy to make contact with every day. And so asserting your identity over and over throughout the day would be harder and harder, which also helps me understand why people would then buy into identity politics, where every day you just say a fucking mantra of like, have humans always gone around doing this, just announcing fucking mantras? Like, maybe?
I don't know, dude. I think that's a new thing. Although, if you think way back thousands of years ago, maybe they did like chant mantra-like things that maybe were the same shit.
But okay, isn't that because no one understood how the world worked, and so then it was all gods that created this, that made the sun go up, and if there was an earthquake, that's because the gods were angry, and oh, if this child is sick, the gods are mad and will sacrifice a goat, and like,
yeah,
like
and then you chant to like get the gods to like you or something.
That kind of mythical world. I think we potentially recreated a mythical world unintentionally by just by imposing more and more inability to know how things actually work. And I feel fucking crazy saying this right now. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
I think that's true. Well, here's a different way of saying the same thing is humans were these really like lost in a dream state, mythic, magical thinking, just kind of like out of touch with reality, but in touch with their own magical thing. That's what we were thousands of years ago. And then in theory, critical thinking or science or whatever has allowed us to like see the world more accurately. But and in theory we could, but actually we're all much more caught in that old mythical, magical thinking than we realize. And now we just use 7 grams of fiber and we weave it into our magical, stupid thing.
The 7 grams of fiber are going to bring you what? They're going to make it so that your kid doesn't get sick? Or they're going to make it so that this keeps away Alzheimer's and or whatever the threat of the day is? You see that I'm just becoming discombobulated, right? As I try to say because I didn't know what I was going to say, but like...
Well, you're horrified at all this fucking brainwashing, misinformation bullshit that's out there, and you should be. So I think that what we need to do is talk about, okay, so what does your average person do living in this world? Like, what should we do? I don't think there's an easy answer to these questions. I think we're in a new time with phones and TikToks and, alcohol sugars, and there's all this new shit, and it's like hard to know. Humans, it's kind of this idea of evolutionary mismatch. It's like what humans did for hundreds of thousands of years, and we evolved to do that, was this type of life that doesn't exist anymore. And now we're here, we're doing this new thing, and you and me are sitting looking at computers, like talking about, it's like, what the fuck are we doing?
Potentially answer your question is, what does the average person do? What are we supposed to do about this? I don't even think we clearly articulated the phenomenon that I was getting so bent about.
Well, the phenomenon is like we are living in a world and we're trying to navigate through life, but our navigational signs are just total bullshit, brainwash lies.
Thank you.
And it makes it hard to navigate through life.
Thank you. That was so fucking clear. I don't know why I'm reluctant to say it, but now that's perfect. That is exactly what I was protesting against.
Yeah, and as a result, we don't really know how to navigate, and it's tempting to try to come up with a good thing, but I for some reason I'm taking this stance of like, we're kind of in a transitional era of humanity, and it's probably going to last a while, where you just have to navigate and all the signs are fucked up, and so you just have to like do your best, and you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
That's very humanistic and existential of you to just embrace the unknown, right? Because being psychologists, we're kind of the knowers delivering like the priest of our times. I used to think of that like 20 years ago, right? Like we are supposed to be some kind of a beacon of like having your finger on the pulse of what's known. But as you're pointing out, it's like becoming harder and harder. And at some point, it appears to be okay to just say like, yeah, unbelievable, right? Like, we don't know exactly what's going on. But then that seems to be clinically unacceptable because you have to be able to say, you have anxiety, we will treat this effectively. You have depression, well, we will use empirically validated treatments. And you're like, empirically validated by who? To treat what?